Hello there folks, and a very warm welcome as usual back to What's for Tea, and it's lovely to see you all again, and I hope that I find you very well indeed. So let me show you how I made these delicious Belgian buns. We get these quite often from Greggs here in the UK, and if you're in the UK you'll probably be quite familiar with these. So let me go on and show you how I made them. They're much easier than I thought. So I'm going to be using my stand mix today just because it makes making dough so easy, but you can of course make dough by hand if you've got a strong arm, but I would recommend use a stand mix if you have one. First thing I'm going to do is pop in some strong bread flour followed by plain flour or all-purpose flour as well. So you just want to combine these just for a few seconds. Just turn your speed on to quite low. I'm going to add half teaspoon of salt, but if you're using salted butter, I wouldn't bother adding the salt. I am using unsalted butter in this recipe, and also 2 sachets of fast-acting yeast, which is 14 grams, or 1 tablespoon goes in there as well. Just give it a wee mix together, and then I'm going to add some white sugar. I am using caster sugar, but white granulated sugar will do. And I'm also going to have 2 eggs. These are medium eggs or large eggs if you're in the USA or Canada. Just give those a good switch up or a good beat together. And like I said, I am using unsalted butter. I'm going to pop this into the microwave just for about 20-30 seconds, just until it melts down and looks something like this. And I'm going to add this to my milk. I've warmed this milk up as well. And you just want to give those a good stir together until they're combined. I'm going to swap out my paddle attachment for my dough hook because we're now about to make the dough. So pop your dough hook into your mixer attachment, and we're going to add the butter and the milk straight into the dry ingredients along with that beaten egg as well. We're going to start this off in quite a low speed just to get everything combined for about 5 minutes. This will take you about 10 or 11 minutes to do properly, and then for the last 5 minutes we're going to crank up the speed a wee bit and get it going. Like I said, this will take you 10 or 11 minutes, and you're looking for a nice stretchy elastic dough, and it shouldn't be overly sticky. If it's very sticky, just give it a wee bit more time, or you can add maybe a tablespoon of flour. You don't want this overly sticky, but it should be lovely and stretchy and elastic just like this. I'm going to pop down a wee bit of flour on my work surface just to make sure it doesn't stick. This is just plain or all-purpose flour. You just kind of tuck it under, on the underside just like this to give you a nice stretch on the top, and this will give you a lovely smooth ball of dough, and then we're ready to move on. So pop this into a bowl which has been well oiled, not too much oil, just so that it doesn't stick as it rises. You want to use quite a big bowl to give your dough room to grow, because this will double, maybe even treble in size. So you want to put this somewhere nice and cozy and warm for about 2 hours, and it will look something like this. So I think my dough has about trebled there, but ideally this is what you're looking for, something lovely and bouncy and full of gas. But we are going to knock some of this gas out as well. So you want to get back over to your work surface, pop down some more flour again just so that it doesn't stick. Turn your bowl out and you will be left with a lovely dough like this. Like I said, full of air, and I love playing about this kind of dough. It just feels lovely in your hands. So another wee bit of flour on top, and you just want to sort of squidge that air out and pull it into a kind of rectangle shape, because we're going to roll this out, and ideally you want to keep this in a rectangle shape if you can. If you're finding it too round, just pull the corners out and it will stay in this shape. It's a very forgiving dough. It does work with you, not against you. And ideally, you want this to be about 15 or 16 inches long and about 12 inches in height. So yeah, this is ideal. And then the last thing we're going to do is spread on some lemon curd. You can use apricot jam or apricot jam if you prefer. There's recipes out there that use apricot jam, some that use lemon curd. So I'm going to use lemon curd just because I like the lemon flavour. And then on top of this, we're going to pop some dried fruit. You can use currants or sultanas, raisins, whatever you like. And I'm just going to use this flexible chopping board just to sort of push those into the dough a wee bit so that when I roll it up, you know, they do stay in place. So start from your long end and you just want to gently roll this towards you. I'll speed this up a wee bit just so that I don't bore you too much. And I'm going to roll this onto a chopping board. I'm going to take the ends off because it's slightly too long for my chopping board. So I'm going to chop the ends off and I'm going to refrigerate this for about 15 minutes because by refrigerating this, it's going to make it much easier to cut. So into the fridge for 15 minutes and then you can get it back out and you can chop this into how many rolls you like. You can have them as thick or as thin as you like. So you can copy me or just do your own thing. It's entirely up to you. But I had some bigger ones and some smaller ones. So I've just divided these between two trays. Leave lots of room between them because they will grow and expand because we're going to let these proof again. So pop these back into the same cozy spot as before and leave them for another couple of hours and these will double in size hopefully again. So it might take an hour, 2 hours. It just depends how warm your cozy spot is. So mine took 2 hours and they ended up looking like this. So they have grown considerably in size. So that's both my trays there. So now you want to get these into the oven, into the middle of your oven for about 20 minutes. And the temperatures are on the screen there for you, depending on what you're using. And they will come out looking something like this. And I was really pleased with these because this was a first attempt at these rolls. You know, I've never done these before. So if I can do this, anyone can do this. I am a terrible baker. So yeah, it's just so easy. So let these cool completely. I would leave them sitting on the tin for a few minutes just to firm up a wee bit and then pop them onto a wire rack just to cool completely before you put your icing on, or the icing won't stay on the top. It'll just kind of melt in and that's not what you want. So once they've fully cooled, you can go and make your icing. So this is just icing sugar or powdered sugar, confectioner's sugar, whatever you want to call it. And then to this, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of milk. You can use water if you prefer. I think by using milk, it just gives a whiter appearance, which I was looking for. So just stir this through until you get a really thick fondant type icing, and you do want this really, really thick because you do want it to kind of stay on the top. If it drips down the side, absolutely no problem. That's what normally happens, but you do want the majority of your icing to remain on the top, as they set. Something like this is ideal. And I'm going to finish off by popping half a glassy cherry just on the top, again, just as you would find them in the shop. Now you want to let these, set completely, and it might take an hour or so, or you don't have to let it set. Obviously you can eat these straight away, but for aesthetic reasons, I would let them set for an hour or so. And don't they look fab? Now I'm not actually going to be able to chew into one of these to let you see because these are actually made for someone else. So I'll just leave it here and hopefully you'll give these a go yourself and let me know down in the comments how you found them. It's a fab recipe and like I said, tastes almost identical to the ones you get from Greggs if you do like a Greggs Belgian bun. So thank you so much for watching, and a huge thank you as usual to the supporters of the channel over on my Patreon page, to the channel members here on YouTube, for you all for watching, leaving your lovely comments, thumbsing up the videos, sharing the videos, those that have bought me a coffee using the Buy Me a Coffee link, those that have left me a super thanks donation on the channel. It's all very much appreciated. I'm very lucky to have you, so thank you once again, and I'll see you off as soon back here on What's for Tea. Bye now.